from Kelly Services.
Thanks very much, Adrian. It's great to be here with everyone, and I will just try and share my screen so you can have the benefit of some slides as well. Okay, bear with me 1 second. So, thank you, everyone. My name is Richard Bradley. As Adrian said, I work for Kelly Services, and I wear a number of different hats. I'm responsible for our strategic sales across Europe and also how we develop and grow the customers that we have. And really, I'm also responsible for leading our RPO practice across the international region. I'm delighted to be able to have the opportunity to talk to you today. I think utilising data and analytics is becoming more and more important, and we're seeing more and more value coming from being able to do that. I think there are a couple of watch outs that I would always say when we talk about the value of data. Data is only as good as the decisions you actually make from it. Talent intelligence is as much a state of mind as it is a science. So I think it's really important that whenever you're applying the concepts of talent intelligence and how you utilize data, it's really important that you understand what you're trying to get out of it, because it can be as much of a hindrance as it can be a help if you don't really understand the direction of travel that you're trying to go. I think it's also really important to point out that don't assume that the future will always look like the past. I don't think anybody 2.5 years ago would have quite thought that we would have gone through what we've gone through today with everything that we've had with COVID and the impact on the marketplace and the current situation that we have in the Russia and Ukraine. It's going to have a disruptive effect. And I think that's one thing that's going to make data and talent intelligence really, really important over the next few months and years. Is things aren't going to be the same, and therefore we need to have actionable intelligence that allows us to be able to make some really good decisions. I think the first bit to point out about talent intelligence is when we talk to customers and we talk about, as part of our RPO offering, quite often now everybody expects us to come with a suite of tools and various different things that we can bring. And there are a number of paid tools, and we'll talk some of those as we go through the presentation. But I think the most important thing is talent intelligence doesn't have to cost the earth. What you do need to put in is a bit of time and effort, and you need to put in the groundwork, and like everything, it's about preparation. But there are a number of different sources of really good data that you can get from external sources that are very, very, very low cost, or in some cases free. Sites like PayScale and Total Jobs have some great salary benchmarking data. We use Horsefly. That's why we're on this particular webinar with you guys. It's an exceptionally good tool, and it allows you to bring some really good insight. So there are a mixture of tools that you can use, but there are a number of sources of data or information that you have at your fingertips today. That's your own internal talent, it's former employees or alumni, it's any of the passive candidates that you're talking to, those people that apply to your organization, and all of your competitors. And talent intelligence can work whether you're in an agency environment, and it can be very useful. And our staffing business use talent intelligence and a number of tools, again, like Horsefly, all the way through to our RPO business and our end customers. So a talent intelligence can fit various different organizations, various different budgets at various different scales. So don't be put off by thinking it has to be a significant investment. So how do you get started? Really, as I mentioned before, it's a mindset. So you need to understand what you're trying to achieve. What are you trying to to be able to solve? What's the question that you have, and how can data support you in delivering that? We talk about the value coming from, you can look at lag data and look at what's happened, but also a lot of what we like to do and where we see a lot of the value is predictive analytics. What do we see that's happening today, and does that predict a future outcome? Because that's where the value comes, because that's where you can start to utilize that to make some decisions. And we use the language at Kelly of lag and lead measures. So there's lag measures, which are things that are a really good indicator of where you've come from. And then lead measures are the sorts of things that if you take action on will impact that measure. So you can start to focus your activity in the right direction. So why bother with talent intelligence? Different people want different things out of talent intelligence and labour market analytics. So you can make strategic decisions about the talent you currently have, about where you're finding talent. If you start to look at the way that you're using data within your own organisation, you can help reduce employee turnover. And let's be fair, that's something that we hear a lot about in the news at the moment. And we're seeing a lot within organisations is the increase of people leaving organisations and looking. We all know where the noise is in our organisations, but really, where are the urgent hiring needs? It shouldn't just be about which ones of the hiring managers are the ones that are screaming the hardest. And where are the future challenges? What is a problem today might be gone by June or July, but you don't realise that there is an absolutely curveball coming in that's going to really impact the business. So understanding your business, the use of labour market statistics, your own data can have a really good impact in predicting to a degree your future business. And as you'll see on that screen, there are a number of different areas. But again, one of the things that I would say is using talent intelligence to focus on your business goals. And there aren't very many organisations today that aren't focusing on diversity of the talent they're bringing in, and looking at how you have a more diverse workforce. And talent intelligence can really help, because it can help you understand the makeup of where you are. It can help you understand the makeup of the regions that you're in, and how is your diversity makeup for the local region that you're in. And it can also help you understand where the talent communities are that you want to tap into. And if you're looking to go and identify talent that you haven't necessarily always looked for, using that talent intelligence can help you understand how to build campaigns. So it's great to have a bit of a theoretical overview, but I thought what I'd try to do is just quickly bring the capability and the types of different ways that you can bring to life talent intelligence. So I've come up with 3 really simple real life examples of work that we've been able to work with our clients from an RPO perspective. So we have a major retail consumer client that is based out on the southwest, and they were looking to they had some challenges where they were looking to find a VAT manager, and that role had been open for 6 or 7 months. We came in to look at that organisation, and we were told that this is a particular problem that we were focusing on. So we used Horsefly to understand the shape of the labour market. And what we understood was within the local community, within a 10-mile radius, there was a very small pool of people that had the qualifications and experience that they were looking for. If you expanded that to the next nearest town, for this particular client, the next biggest town was Bristol, there was a much bigger availability of talent. But what that then showed you is that the role that the remuneration that they were paying for this particular role was no better than what you could get in Bristol. So it allowed us to have a conversation with a hiring manager that said, the challenge is you have an operation in Bristol, you could put the person in Bristol and you're paying the current role and the current market rates, or you can continue to look for somebody in this particular location, but to do so, you are going to have to attract talent from different areas to where you're currently searching, and you're going to need to think about the way that you position that. What's the opportunity to grow? Why would somebody commute from perhaps Bristol for the same salary? Are they going to do it? Do we need to look at the compensation? And we use Horsefly particularly, and a number of other tools, to really help us understand the shape of the market, understand where talent lives. And then that also allows us to focus our attraction channels and our attraction strategy very much focused on particular areas. So, if we have a limited budget, as we quite often do when we're working as an RPO, we will take that spend and look at making the most impactful way that we can, and understanding that if we're advertising in a particular location for a particular set of skills becomes very, very helpful. And it helps you really manage your advertising spend. When we talk about retention, Horsefly and other tools like LinkedIn Insights is also really useful. Also, just looking at things like LinkedIn to understand the talent journey of candidates and where your team are going. It can help you identify, are you losing some of your top talent to particular organizations? Is there a particular career path that these people are taking? And then it allows you to do some analysis to understand, what is it that those organizations are offering that perhaps you don't? And then that can help you start to plug those gaps. It allows you then to look at doing things like not only exit interviews, but what's starting to become very popular in our world is what we call stay interviews. So when people reach certain milestones, we ask them, why do you stay? What is it about the organization that you're working for that makes you want to stay? And we feed that in to our talent intelligence, which quite often can be an Excel spreadsheet. Sometimes it's a really expensive piece of kit. Sometimes it's good old Excel. And that seems to fit for most organizations that we're working for. One of the other things that we've done very successfully is understanding the pain points of our customers to get ahead of the curve. We have a financial services client where they identified in their senior leadership team where they were potentially exposed and where it would cause them the most pain if they were to lose somebody in that role. And then what we were able to do is go out and build talent communities, go out and start to have conversations with passive talent, not necessarily about a role today, but to effectively give that talent a little tickle and get it to a point where when one of those opportunities became live, we had a warm group of people that we were able to talk to. And that worked very, very successfully. It also works very well for niche roles. And we have a life sciences client in Ireland, which has a very specific skill set. And it was worked out that for every month that particular person wasn't there producing something within the lab, it had the potential to impact over a 6-month period of $5 million. So they were very motivated to understand if that person was to leave, how quickly could they make that person rehired. So it was a very niche role. There are about 17 people in Europe. We identified who those people were using talent like Horsefly. We identified that talent. We engaged with that talent. We had conversations with that talent. We haven't had to replace, but should we have to replace that individual, we now know where everybody exists. They're aware of the client, the journey that they're going on, and the potential opportunity that that client could have for their career. So they're just a couple of examples of how you can utilize talent intelligence and how you can bring that to life. And I've talked very briefly about talent intelligence and how you can do it. So, the plug for companies like Kelly or other RPO providers are available, or independent talent intelligence companies. There are a large number of organizations that can help you establish, design, build, operate if we need to, or transfer it back to the organization. We're going to hear later from Shagun, who is a data analyst, and you can bring one of those into your own team and invest in, and you'll see some amazing work that she's done. So I think you can see the value that bringing something like that can have. You can bring in tools like Horsefly. Horsefly looks like quite an expensive investment when you look at it in pounds and pence, but when you actually start to break down the return of that investment and the ability that it has for you to influence and change, it is a very small overall cost. And there are other tools like AI-driven sourcing tools such as Enteleo and what's now EZ but was HireTool. And there are some really cool tools out there like Candidate ID, which help build sentiment engines. So these aren't necessarily directly talent intelligence tools, but they're tools that help you harvest and gain the sort of data that can help you make actionable insights. But I talked earlier about it doesn't have to be done with a large budget. And there's some really simple stuff that you can do. Knowing your basic data, attrition rates by department, for example, lots of data that you will currently have in your CRM, your HR systems. Those sorts of things are absolutely critical. But your recruiters are the people that can get that intelligence for you. If you know what you're trying to achieve and you've built that plan, you can build in some questions into your just everyday interview schedules that you're talking to people on a regular basis that helps build out a map and a view of talent intelligence. So lots that you can do that takes nothing more than a bit of thought and a bit of time and a bit of preparation. So there is no reason in my mind why any organization can't start to really see and utilize the value of data analytics, labor force market statistics, and really start to have a meaningful and impactful way to be able to get HR or talent further up the value chain within your organization, and for you to be able to somehow be able to influence some of those business leaders about investment and looking at how and why the market is like it is. So that's pretty much it from me. That's everything I really had to say on the concept of talent intelligence. I'd love to know if there are any questions.
Yeah, Richard, if you can unshare, fantastic. I've got a couple of questions. Firstly, you described something called a sentiment engine for Candidate ID. Just explain what you mean by sentiment engine.
Yeah, and look, there's a really good tool in Candidate ID, and it's not the only provider that does this, but it's one that we use and work with quite regularly. It can judge the mood of talent. So what we mean by that is there are tools out there that will measure how engaged a candidate is to your brand and your communication. So it measures things like, did you open an email? Did you look at the email? How long did you look at that email? Did you click through to the attachment to see information about it? Did you follow the link to the careers page? And what it allows you to do is build up a picture of the engagement and how somebody feels about your organization and your brand. And then that allows you to then make a decision of the 2,000 candidates that you might have sat on your ATS or that are applying to your organization. You can see how motivated they are and spend your time and energy into one of those particular areas.
Excellent. Thank you for explaining. We've had a question from a participant who stated it sounds like you have quite an advanced talent intelligence team. But what support do you get from Horsefly?
So yeah, you'll know that A, I'm in sales, and B, in RPO, a lot of it is smoke and mirrors. So the team is relatively small, in honesty. We have about 3 or 4 people that are dedicated on this across about 40 or 50 different programs that we run. So it's relatively small. A lot of this is more around the mindset and how we use that. And that's where the help from Horsefly comes. When we started to use Horsefly, it was like, yeah, this could be good. But we didn't really understand the power of it. And we worked with Matt, who was our account manager, and he really helped us bring to life, look, have you thought about the situation you've got here? How could we use this tool and this intelligence to really be able to answer that question, or find out answers to that question, or go and find out other areas that might be interrelated? And that for me was the real big help from Horsefly, was that it helped our team really start to understand the mindset of talent intelligence and data. And it is a different mindset to what you perhaps have every day.
Great. Clearly, you've got a very sophisticated approach to labour market analytics and data in general. But how mature are you finding your clients, or particularly new clients that you're coming across? Do you have to educate them in data?
It depends. So some clients that we go to, we sort of walk away a little bit ashamed that we don't have the same level of knowledge that they have. And to be fair, that's organisations like, Baz had at Philips. I mean, he created an amazing organisation and view of talent intelligence, and organisations like Amazon are built on the concept of data and understanding that data. So a number of organisations are pretty advanced. But I would say the usual 80-20 rule, 80% of organisations want to use data. They're not really sure how to use that data or how to start that data. And as I said before, quite often they think that they have to have a huge investment and they're going to cost them a lot of money to get involved. So that becomes the traditional barrier. Answering the question a slightly different way, I would say 90% of the inquiries that we have always ask us about our ability to use data analytics and how are we going to help them make better commercial and business decisions. So it's definitely on the agenda for all organisations.
Okay, thanks, Richard. And if people would like to ask any further questions, please just do click on the Q&A button and post your question, and I will come back at the end and ask Richard any more. I'm going to move on now and invite Shagun to talk a little bit more about the use of labour market analytics in location analysis, etc. Now, just a heads up, if we lose Shagun for a couple of minutes, it's because there is a huge sandstorm approaching northern India where Shagun is based. We have got contingency plans, but if we lose you, Shagun, we will hopefully welcome you back very, very quickly, and I hope everybody understands. It's truly global. I'm speaking to you from Spain today, and I'm sure there's people from all over the world, but let's hope that the Wi-Fi signals hold up. So Shagun's from Webhelp and is going to talk to us a little bit around that use of data in location and facilities management. And again, if you've got any questions, please ask them by clicking on the Q&A button, and I'll put those to Shagun at the end of the presentation. Over to you, Shagun.
Thanks, Adrian, for the very kind introduction. And I was hoping you would start with you offering to sing a song if you do lose me during the webinar. I know Richard's really looking forward to it, and so are our participants. Well, a very good noon to you all on a day that brings us one step closer to that long weekend, at least for my friends in the UK. I am ecstatic to be speaking with all of you here today in all things talent intelligence. Now, I am going to use my most used phrase, which is I will attempt to share my screen. And if I can, Adrian, I'm going to lean back onto you. Tech and I don't agree a lot of times. Okay, sharing my screen. Please let me know when you can see it.
Well, it all worked absolutely fine about 3/4 of an hour ago when we tested this. So there must be a button there that you can press, Shagun, that's going to share the
I
screen.
am. It does say that I am presenting. Testing my patience. So it does say that I'm presenting, and it tells me I could only stop presenting. So there's something wrong. Let me redo this somehow. So again, waiting for your nod to let me know if you can see my screen.
You're sharing your screen, but it's the webinar screen rather than your PowerPoint screen.
That is rather weird.
Would you like me to go to plan B? Oh, there we go. You're up.
Oh, I am? Okay, I did exactly the same thing, but then not going to argue with tech. All right, so a very good noon, like I said, to all of you. And before we dive into all things labor market data and how we could use it to influence business decisions, I would like to take this moment to speak a little bit about my organization, that is Webhelp. At Webhelp, we are in the business of creating exceptional customer journeys for our businesses. And we are a team of about 100,000 people spread across 50 countries and growing. We do take pride in leveraging data and tech to make businesses more human. And as a part of my role, which Adrian spoke about in the very beginning, is analyzing all things talent intelligence, labor market data, and informing the business to make data-driven decisions. Speaking of data and reiterating what Richard said earlier, Lever, which is an organization that does research, has identified that data-driven recruitment strategies to be amongst the top trends for the year 2022. And that sort of makes me think, you know how the saying goes, in God we trust, and the rest please bring data. On that note, I will now walk you through a business case scenario that I did for the business. Now, this is something that was done very, very recently and brings to life the value that Horsefly as a platform and the information that it has to offer could be leveraged in making, well, multiple decisions, but this one in particular. So I was asked the question, which I suppose a lot of us in the talent intelligence or the workforce planning or operations world are asked, which is to provide information in terms of talent pool insights to identify or pin down regions that are best suited to serve a particular client or deliver solutions which require a particular skill set that's been identified. And at that point, what I did was I went to my best friend Horsefly, and what I did was I ran a search, which was a very specific skill search, as I mentioned, across the UK. Now, oops, I'm missing the slide here. So what I am trying to present is a slide with a map and a demand and supply curve, but what I'm seeing is something else. Could somebody tell me if that is what you see indeed?
Shagun, we're just seeing the PowerPoint with the first slide showing, and the other slides in a list down the side. If you click on the next slide, it might move forward. If you click on that.
I actually did navigate to slide number 3 on my end, but it's clearly. Adrian, do you want to do this for me? Because
do you want to? Would you like to stop sharing? Yeah.
Yes, please. Sorry about that.
Right, so I'm just trying to navigate to your slide.
So I was trying to get to slide 3, which is where I've got the heat map and the demand and supply curve.
Yeah, so it's not letting me share your screen at the moment.
So it wasn't just me then.
No, but just give me a sec. I'm going to. Okay, this should be working now.
Yes, it does. So I was trying to get to the slide with. Well, let's go to the slide with the question, please. So that I did speak over it, but it does bring to life. Right. So what I was talking about was, this is a question that's being asked to a lot of people in talent intelligence as well as ops, which is, what regions or what locations would you want to pin down as regions that are easy to identify skill sets, or would be best suited to serve a particular client or deliver solutions that require a particular skill set? And if you could move to the next slide, please. So what I was saying was, when asked this question, what I generally do and what I did in this example for sure was go to my best friend, which is Horsefly. And what I did was I researched for the skill set that was in question. Now you're seeing 2 images on the screen. The one on the left is a heat map. Now what the heat map gives you...
Shagun, can I just interrupt? I've got one person who's just sent a note saying there's no sound. Can somebody who's a participant write in the Q&A whether they can hear any sound? All right, so others are saying there is sound. So let's continue, and we'll try and sort out for the person who can't. Carry on, Shagun.
Okay, no worries. It's just tech things, my friend. So speaking about the image on the left, what we're looking at typically is a heat map, which tells us how and in what numbers the search for the skill set that we've made are available across UK in typical regions. So there is green to yellow, which talks about the density of data. Now, as useful as that information is, what I really like is the image on the right, which is the demand and supply curve. And what that brings to life is not only how many people are available in that region, but also how competitive that market is and what cost the talent is in that region, which Richard, as earlier mentioned, is one of the pivotal questions that we get asked a lot. So what I then did was I created, well, a long list of regions based on how competitive the market is, the salaries, as well as talent pool. And by process of elimination, narrowed down to regions, which in this case were the Northwest, West Midlands, Yorkshire, and Humber. And what I also did was, and this is all power of Horsefly really, and external market searches, pin down on what the average salary for this particular skill set was, In this case, I also leverage total jobs, which again, Richard mentioned is one of the external sources that are free of cost to be utilized. And it does have good salary benchmarking data. Now, after I've identified all the regions, what I then did was, and at this point, if you could move to the next slide, please, get more granular. And when I say granular, I mean drill down into individual regions and get understanding of the cities or the areas where we could find talent. And given that this was an exercise to pin down one particular spot within a region, this was particularly done to identify what cities would work best. So here, what I've done is really leverage the power of Horsefly in terms of what the talent pool numbers look like for cities within particular regions, how competitive those regions are. So we've got information like candidates per role in that area, the average salaries, and companies that are actively hiring, which is a pivotal information again in case somebody is planning to set up ops, to understand what your EVP should look like and what the competition would be. Another neat hack that I utilized here was the business also wanted to know whether these regions are recruiting for roles which are work from home, work from anywhere, or work from site. Now, I'll be very honest, I tried breaking my head in terms of getting that information from sources other than Horsefly, in terms of breaking down whether the roles that are being recruited for are from work from home or work from site. And a neat hack that I used here was went on to the job titles that are being actively recruited for, and this is all within Horsefly. And bingo, like Horsefly gave me the information saying the job titles are being actively recruited for, and there was a segregation there that said skill set being recruited from work from home. So what I did here was just to inform the business to make an educated decision, mention about the percentage of roles that in that region were work from home or work from site, just for us to cater our go-to-market strategies. Now, once we've got this long list, as I mentioned, we really needed to narrow down information to a couple of places and not about 9 regions. So what I then further did was look at these regions and the information that we have here, and then bring it down to a shorter list. Now, given the information that's being presented in front of you, the obvious winners here were for me Region 1 within the Northwest, Region 3 in West Midlands, and Region 8 in Scotland. So putting those 3 together, I then went on, and we talked about this a lot. So what we have from Horsefly is the talent pool data, but then we also need to be conscious of how the market moves in terms of what the labor market looks like, what the demographics are. So I then overlaid that information, and Adrian, if you could ask you to move to the next one, please. So yeah, so what I then did was I overlaid the Horsefly data into the labor market data. Now, this data is readily available from the UK government, and these are nothing but statistics on demographics as well as the economic activity in the region and the unemployment claimant rates, which gives us an indication of whether those regions are actively seeking employment or are happily sedentary jobs and there is no scope to hire for them. So I then arrive into my next slide, which is my top 3 regions. Now, this has got information about which most of it, which you saw on the other slide already, which is information on what my talent pool numbers look like in those regions, what my average salaries are, what are the companies that are actively recruiting. And this is critical information really for any business, because if you see a lot of competitors who are actively recruiting companies in that regions, you might want to move on to a plan B, because then the market's getting really, really competitive. Then there's information about the companies where this skill set is currently working. Now, again, an important information point for companies given that they know how to tailor their EVP and what their attraction strategies should look like. And then we've got the 3 points of data from the UK government stats, which is your unemployment rates across cities, your demographics in terms of what your numbers in age groups look like, as well as your economic activity, which essentially is how many people are actively involved in generating income in that region. So I presented this information to the business along with the information that's been piled on, which includes work from home or work from site. And like I said, this is data that is guided on both talent market analytics as well as your labor market to guide a decision-making process that could potentially decide what region would be best suited for serving a particular need of a client. Now, as we understand that this data is data at a given point of time, but what we are trying to do in our working lives is to understand how the market moves. And Adrian, at this point, if I could ask you to move to the next slide, please. So what we are also trying to do within my team is not just look at information at a given point of time to drive business decisions, which could affect us for a period of time. As we all know, we're also looking at leveraging the data that we have at Horsefly and creating an internal labor market insight trend. Now, what we are going to typically do is periodically pull out reports from Horsefly, which would inform us about what the talent pool looks like at that point of time, as well as other informations which we may find relevant, and then compare it to information at another point of time and see how the markets move. So when you do that for a period of time, you really have got an internal trend line, which I think is powerful if you were to sort of make decisions for a period of time that's way into the future. And given how fast and how dynamic the nature of our job market's been in the past 3 years at least, I think this could be really, really powerful information. What you could then do is use this information again into visualization tools like Power BI, Tableau, and inform the business in terms of what the trends in a particular region look like. And like I said, this would be powerful information for any business to use. Well, that's all I have here. And I think before I finish my presentation, what I would also like to mention is your data that you gather is as good as your interpretation of it. And while data science is considered as one of the more serious roles in the business, what I tell my team most of the times is just have fun with the data and it'll give you answers. Don't torture it enough. Don't make it say what you want it to say, but just have fun with it. I'm very happy to continue conversations on talking about all things talent intelligence. So feel free to give me a shout on LinkedIn, as well as I could pop my email if that is useful. I hope this session was useful for everyone planning to invest in talent intelligence tools, especially Horsefly. And with that, the frame is all yours, Adrian.
Thank you so much, Shagun, and amazing presentation. I've just got one question. Do you, in terms of using talent, you can have the data, but it really needs the business to take action. Are you seeing businesses really accept labor market analytics as readily as they would perhaps financial information from the finance directorate?
So yes, I would say a strong yes to it, and the reason being, so for instance, this particular exercise was driven to create insights in terms of what the recruitment team, which is essentially what I lies with a lot of times, thinks is a good decision to make in terms of just talent pool insights. So when a recruitment team pins down, yes, we are confident about this data science and this data telling us or driving us to make certain decisions, the business then gets confidence. And also, there have been multiple instances where we have used information from not just Horsefly, but just data science in general, and go back to the business and inform them of decisions. And the business then goes back to our clients and then tells them, well, this is how we are guided with a thought process. So like I said, the trend really is, in God we trust, rest all bring data. And when that information is being backed by data, it does bring to life, and it does bring the confidence to the business to agree.
Yeah, so Shagun, I've got a couple of questions from the participants. The first is, do you see much difference when you're researching different countries?
So does that mean if I were to run the same search for a country like India or South Africa, does it mean that do the results vary?
I suspect it's about the qualitative aspect of the data.
Okay, and I get asked this a lot, really. So how I would like to answer this is, your data that you pull up is as good as your search, as good as your interpretation. So I could call something in the UK very, very differently to how I call it in India or in South Africa or in Mexico. So the key really then lies in how you're searching for what you're looking for. So if you were to sort of go and do a similar search in India, I would use key terms which are very, very different to what I use in the UK. And I think the trick really lies in is pinning down what those search terms look for you. So once you've got that right, I don't think there's any difference or there's any variation between quality or validity of the data across countries.
Okay, that's excellent. So it's about working with the customer success team in Horsefly to make sure you're using the right taxonomy for description of the role. Got it. We've got a question from Mark, who asked if he could pull similar data analytics through Horsefly for the contract market, roles like web developer, project manager, or business analyst, etc.
So again, the trick lies in how you are positioning your search to be. So I'm not too certain about the contract market, but I do know that Horsefly, and at this point, I feel like I'm a part of the Horsefly team, but I do know that Horsefly does give you rates which are hourly. And I think that sits very closely with how the contract market also works.
Excellent. Richard, can you add anything from the RPO perspective?
Yeah, I mean, we don't look at, from an RPO perspective, we only focus on perm, but from our staffing business, yes, I can confirm that Horsefly is a really useful tool to look at exactly the same data from perm and temp and contract. You can look at not just pay rates, but you can also understand the build up and makeup of temporary talent communities again in regions. So yeah, it can work for both temp and perm.
Excellent. So this webinar will be available via a recording if anybody wants to share it. If you want to follow up, then please do contact me, Adrian Thomas. I work to support the Horsefly board, but I work across the talent industry, and you can feel free to link in with me. Look for me, Adrian Thomas Recruitment will get you straight to me. Or link in with Richard or Shagun if you want to follow up with either Kelly Services or Webhelp. But if this has whetted your appetite for labour market analytics and you're not currently a Horsefly user, then please do go to horseflyanalytics.com, where there's a lot more information and there's a way for you to get in touch with the Horsefly team. And I have no doubt they will be able to help you. Now, our next webinar will be towards the end of April. We haven't set the exact date yet. It's going to be on a new piece of data that's being added to the Horsefly suite, and it's enabling you to look at ethnicity alongside all the current data that's available. Being able to map ethnicity alongside skills and salaries and the rest of it, I think is a game changer for talent and talent acquisition and the other uses for labour market analytics. So please do look out for it, and I will be delighted to see you all again in about a month's time when we talk all things ethnicity and data. Thank you so much for joining. Bye-bye. Okay, Richard, Shagun, I think the vast majority of participants have now left. I just wanted to pass on my thanks to you for two very insightful presentations. I think there's a lot of value in that. No doubt we'll be getting some feedback, and we'll share that with you. I'm so glad that the technology, we had a plan B for part of it, but I'm so glad we didn't lose you with the adverse weather conditions in your area, Shagun. So we managed to get through it. Thank you so much again, and thanks to you both. I will be in touch shortly. Thank you. Bye.
Good. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Take care. Bye. Bye. Cheers, Gupta.
Bye, Richard.
Bye.